Good morning, YouTube. Hope you're doing well this Tuesday. Well, maybe not so well. It's the morning after the night before. Last night, AFC Bournemouth then went down 2-1 at the hands of Arsenal in the FA Cup fourth round. We kind of scored a consolation, but it didn't really amount to much. I'm joined by Jeff Hayward. Jeff, how's it going?
Not bad, Sam. Not bad at all.
And you witnessed that game last night then. So what were your thoughts on what we saw?
My thoughts were that we played well enough to give a bit of respectability that we were actually trying without actually being that serious about winning. That's what it felt like watching it.
You're saying it felt like a bit of lip service was being paid. You know, we're doing 75% of a job, but it wasn't a team that did anything like it did against Brighton, was it?
You could seriously tell that we were focused on something else. And I wish that we get to that sort of cup game and we're in comfortable mid-table, or we've already got 40 points, so we don't have to worry about the league position, and we actually just go for it. Because watching that game, that was an inexperienced Arsenal team. Mustafi, they didn't have any centre half for the last, 30 minutes of that game, and we seemed reluctant to get the ball in the box, and just a bit passive again at the back, and all the sort of things that when we're not really that bothered, it's what we moan about. And it was there, particularly in that first half. There wasn't enough pressure on the ball. Harry Wilson wasn't defending. The team didn't really know what they were doing.
Yeah, it seemed to be a number of things combined, didn't it? So let's go through the team then. Travers started in goal. Thought it might have been Artur Boruc actually, but not the case. And then a back four of Adam Smith, Steve Cook, Nathan Ake, and Jack Simpson on the left-hand side. That's never worked well, has it?
Well, one thing you knew that Arteta was going to do was play three pacey forwards.
Yeah. Pepe,
Martinelli, and the other guy who they brought back from Leeds the other day, who scored, actually. I should remember his name, so forgive me for that. But then we play Simpson at left back. I mean, surely Lloyd Kelly deserves a chance. What the heck is going on? He was on the bench the other day. He can't have injured himself again in training, can he?
Well, I don't know. It just seems a little bit crazy to me in that we have an established right back. If it was not going to be Adam Smith, Simon Francis. I know that that's possibly not his best position these days, and centre back maybe is, just because it would have been maybe so easy for Frano to have been outdone by their wingers, as Adam Smith was numerous times anyway. However, you'd think that, I mean, it's all very well us saying this in hindsight after a 2-1 defeat, but Adam Smith could have played on the left and Frano on the right. But no, he went with Simpson, who, let's face it, he does need more experience, but, possibly a loan spell more than being played in a position that's not natural to him, because what good does that really do him?
I think he's a reserve centre half, so it's unfair to play him at left back. So.
And we seem to like doing that. I mean, Nathan Ake gets chucked there every so often, and Jack Simpson. It seems odd when you can have a formation of players that know the positions and have played in them for years and years in their career. So anyway, a bit of an odd one. And then we had a midfield. Now you might have to guide me in terms of how we formed, because I couldn't really tell sitting in the North Stand, because when Arsenal went sort of 1-0 and then 2-0 up, it looked like Fraser was pushing up a bit more. But was it a 4-4-2 from the off, or was it kind of hybrid?
So I think this formation that we're playing, when they've got the ball, it's a 4-5-1. When we've got the ball, it's meant to be a 4-3-3. That seems to me what he's trying to do. The problem is that the combination of midfield players doesn't seem to make that central three work particularly well or smoothly. Like, I couldn't tell you who was meant to be playing further forward. Obviously, Sermon's meant to be the holding midfield player in the centre, but I don't know. Lewis Cook and Dan Gosling didn't seem to be working that brilliantly together. And I'm sorry, but I don't know. Change the record, but Harry Wilson is not a player who can play that sort of up and down right-hand side of midfield role. He can't defend, and you said Adam Smith was exposed. He was exposed because they were running wings around Harry Wilson too. It's like Arteta looked at that sort of where's the Bournemouth weakness, and I think he spotted it. Just playing behind Harry Wilson because he's not great at defending.
And then, of course, we played with Fraser and Wilson, as you say, as the wide men, and then Solanke up front. And it's just really funny looking at the stats here. I mean, Dom Solanke obviously hasn't scored against top-flight opposition yet. And, Solanke plays 89 minutes, doesn't score. Surridge came on 89 minutes and nets our only goal of the game. It's bizarre. But, I mean, in terms of that team, when you saw it, though, what were your thoughts at first, and especially when you compared it to Arsenal's starting 11?
It felt a bit of a mixed bag. I couldn't quite see how it was functioning, and we'll talk about Solanke and how he played in the Brighton game, which I think was totally different to the role that he was used in tonight. So I don't want to be too harsh on him, because actually I thought he had his best game for us the other night. The other day. Against Brighton. No, it was the night, wasn't it? It was last Tuesday.
Yeah.
So
confusing with all these games, yeah.
Yeah, so I think I don't know, it just didn't seem to quite work. I think a lot of fans would rather have seen Surridge on from the start in a game like that. Maybe even giving Dobre a chance rather than. I think we know what Solanke is capable of. Playing him on his own up front isn't going to do him any favours.
No, not at all. It's not, and it seemed though throughout the. I mean, Arsenal's side. I mean, they had some individually fairly strong players that have been put together in there. Pepe, fans' favourite Xhaka, Guendouzi, Martinelli has recently impressed for Arsenal, scored a great goal against Chelsea the other day. Experienced players like Mustafi and Bellerin, but there were a number of players also that we could have got at, but we didn't, and that's the frustrating thing. And I've never seen a more passive team, than Bournemouth against the Arsenal side for 35-40 minutes yesterday, but it seemed to be that way. I mean, I thought we had barely any possession of the ball. We had the inability to hold the ball up. It was just bouncing off us, whereas Arsenal were just absolutely dominating, weren't they?
They were, and they pressed us really well. They closed down the space on the midfield really well. We struggled. They
seem to be targeting. Well, Jack Simpson with the ball over the top. Adam Smith got caught, but as you say, that could have been Harry Wilson. That's his poor positioning that led to a number of those situations. But they seemed to have a lot of joy. And then, what was it? It wasn't too long in at all. 5 minutes when Saka scored their opener, and that was down the left. And sure enough, a powerful shot from the angle, which Travis couldn't do much about. But what's your view on that goal?
Well, if the opposition, every player in their team touches the ball before it gets to the guy who actually scores it.
Really? Wow.
What was it? 22 passes and bypassing every Bournemouth player on that pitch, and we had everybody behind the ball in our defensive half, and we couldn't get close to it. It's like, well, when you press, we talk a lot about the pressing game, and what Arsenal did well tonight was they pressed as a team with a lot of energy. And I think sometimes when you make too many changes, as we did tonight, players aren't particularly confident of their role, and they didn't quite play well enough as a team to put pressure on the Arsenal guy with the ball, or even the pass out for the Arsenal player. So it's about anticipating not just who's got the ball, but where he's going to pass to, and closing those spaces down all at the same time. And we just didn't really seem able to do that. Whether we had the appetite to do it or not, couldn't tell you. But it just felt like we weren't really that bothered in the first half.
Yeah, and that was reflected, I think, in the atmosphere as well, because it started off really loud and really good. And then as soon as they scored, and then the passive nature of how we were playing after that, it just led to it being quite flat. And, even the Arsenal fans were singing, "Is this the Emirates?" A lot of self-deprecating humour from, Selfie Stick FC. Well, they are the footballing tourists, if ever they were a team. But they were, jeering us and saying, "How shit must you be? We're winning away," and all this kind of stuff. But it was it reminded me of those games against Man City against Liverpool in seasons gone by, where we just let them have the ball and we try to soak it up. But when we did get the ball, we never possessed that counter-attacking threat because they were onto us really, really quickly. And the fact that we just weren't holding it up, passes were going astray. We were a little bit slow. We didn't have that cutting edge going forward, didn't move forward at pace. It all seemed very slow, which gave time for Arsenal to reset and do their job again. Whereas when Arsenal, when Arsenal moved forward, they moved forward at a pace and quickly, and it was a combination of through the core of the middle of the park, playing it out wide, and lo and behold, Nketiah on 26 minutes got on the end of another move that flowed through the pitch on their left flank and whipped ball in, and it went to VAR. I don't know how close it was, Jeff.
Well, there was a knee was offside for Martinelli, but he didn't touch the ball. So why VAR was even looking at it is beyond me. So irrelevant. And I mean, he couldn't miss. It was just again the sort of passing that you wish we could be good at sometimes, but we just at the moment in games like tonight, I kind of lose track of the number of times we miscontrol the ball, the number of times that the ball gets played at the wrong pace, so it's not into the player's stride. They have to go back and collect it. The number of times that we pass the ball sideways when we've got a forward pass on. We're deliberately slowing the game down. And I think what we need to sort out is this mentality, which when we talk about the Brighton game, we actually did quite well, of getting the ball forward quickly rather than just overpassing it for the sake of going nowhere.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And it seems to be, there are certain players that came in, and I don't want to criticise them individually because they were put into positions that, for instance, Jack Simpson, he doesn't have that natural, let's look forward, let's attack. When he gets the ball on the flank, he's not looking to do that. He's always coming back. But then, conversely, after Arsenal scored their second, there was a moment where Fraser and Simpson were both going down the left flank. It's almost like he's been told, let's attack. And then for the last 5-10 minutes of the first half, we actually possibly looked the better side in glimpses. And that gave me a bit of positivity going into the second half, because I thought, if we do more of that, then we might have a chance here.
Yeah, we played a bit more on the front foot. I think Fraser was getting more of the ball and looking more dangerous, certainly down that left-hand side. A couple of sort of chances, not quite connecting in front of goal, but actually it was better. And I think they just, look at when we play well and when we're strong. It's because we're getting the ball wide and we're getting the ball into dangerous positions, and we're not afraid to get the ball in the box.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's not hard,
No, that's right. So 2-0 at half time, and then I don't know. It felt like to me the second half was marginally better, but we just didn't seem to be able to get any momentum, not helped by the amount of times that Arsenal players went down. I think one of them was stretching off, so obviously that was a legitimate injury, but it seemed they went to ground all the time, and it was just so difficult to build up head of steam. Not great.
Yeah, very professional, I think, is the phrase for that sort of behaviour. And let's face it, when we're winning 2-0 away from home, we'd be up to the same tricks. But it's very frustrating to watch. I mean, Guendouzi annoys the hell out of me. It's kind of like, I think he's the mini me of David Luiz, who I can't abide either. That hair and that look, he's just got, anyway, so it can't bear him. And he was throwing himself to the floor, and actually was having a bit of a running battle with Gosling.
Yeah, he was.
There was a few.
To his credit, he sort of ran the game somewhat, though, didn't he, for Arsenal? Annoyingly.
Yeah, annoyingly he did. And even in the second half, we were playing with more energy and passion and trying to be more on the front foot. But Arsenal still looked comfortable, and they looked dangerous on the break as well. I mean, when they got the ball wide to Saka, he's a good player. Very young, but a great player.
We seem to be closing them down a little bit better though in the second half, and it felt like they had less clear-cut chances, or certainly less possession in our half as well. I don't know how it looked on the TV, but I mean, we had a great chance when Simpson nodded that header just the other side of the post. I mean,
close.
That was a great chance.
Close, and I think he thought he'd scored. He started wheeling away, thinking he'd scored. But again, you look at where Arsenal are vulnerable. I think sometimes we just need to be a bit smarter. We've got this fixation of playing our game, nice, pretty football. But sometimes against a team like Arsenal, in the old-fashioned phrase, they do not like it up them. Away from home, sometimes you've got to put bodies in the box, stick the ball in there, play a bit of a Burnley-esque direct game, and that will get results. And I just think we're just not smart enough to recognise, okay, so they're pressing us with all these players. That must mean there's an option to long ball it, don't you think?
Yeah. And I kind of liked what we did against Brighton. As someone said, I think it was Nick Case on Twitter, said that just before our first goal, Philip Billing had the ball, and most fans were willing him to play Enrico on the left side. But as soon as he got that ball, Callum Wilson went on this run, and then he played this long, it seemed aimless at the time, ball forward, but it created a massive space between Brighton's defence and midfield. And I think it was Dunk won the header, but then we picked it up with Solanke, who then laid in Harry Wilson. And it seemed to be, again, we only had one style of playing again, and we were quite afraid to sort of mix it up. What do you think of Sermon's inclusion and how his performance was?
Well, I can understand why he got included. We needed to arrest Lerma, and he did well in the game against Luton. I think you can see that he's a little bit off the pace, particularly playing against a younger, more energetic, organised side like Arsenal. They did close him down quite well, and I think not only Sermon was made to look slightly pedestrian, a lot pedestrian, but I think Lewis Cook, for me, seems to have lost that ability to play the pass and see the pass early. And
there are so many mistakes from him. Misplaced passes,
just giving the ball away needlessly, and you think that's not the Lewis Cook that I remember from last season.
No.
And I really worry about his form. In particular, we talked about him being one of the brightest prospects.
He's plateaued massively.
Really has.
He really has. And there were little moments, but not enough. And there were just some simple things that he was doing wrong. And I think, I don't know, I've always thought that, I always used to think that Sermon and Lewis Cook were actually fairly similar, because they're both players that like to spread the ball out wide, and I thought it would have maybe favoured having a different type of player in there rather than having Lewis Cook and Sermon. But we've been crying out for this, so we can't really complain. But I don't know, we always sort of focus on certain positions when things go wrong, but that midfield three, to me, I mean, they didn't run the show whatsoever. There was sparks in the second half. But I don't know, it just seems that we're a confident side, and when we had a number of chances towards the, just the momentum was growing. We did look better, so it seems like we are a confident side. And Sam Surridge pops up, and arguably we could have nicked an equaliser, but in terms of getting in the right positions, but we just didn't have that clear-cut finish.
Well, I think, first of all, Sam Surridge, great finish. And that sort of goal scorer's nous, something that Solanke is sadly missing. And playing Surridge with Wilson felt like a bit better. Surridge put himself about it. He wanted to be there. He wanted to play, lots of energy, and he anticipated that ball. Great finish, really calm, brilliant. But then followed by the next near miss, where again we're lumping the ball into the box. Not a great deal of finesse or thought to it. Just get the ball in the mixer. Comes out to Lewis Cook, and that summed up Lewis Cook. That for an England under-20 international, get that ball on target. You could tell his body position. He's just leaning back. That is going to go over, and it's such a again, a simple thing. If he's playing with confidence and belief, that is at least on target. And who knows? Could have been 2-2. Could have been a return fixture at the Emirates. And who knows? The delight of going to Pompey.
Yeah, well, that's right. I mean, a few people were texted and said, at 2-1, it was almost like Eddie didn't want that goal to go in because, at the end of the day, a 2-1 loss, I mean, I'm not happy with the manner of certain elements of the performance, but I don't think a 2-2 would have done anything for us. Maybe it would have created a bit of momentum ahead of Villa at the weekend, perhaps, but then, whenever that replay would be, maybe it's not ideal. I don't know. And at the end of the day, this week, we've got 2 cup finals, 2 cup matches. That was one of them, but Saturday is the cup final, isn't it?
Saturday is the big one, and we should all be feeling super encouraged after the way we played against Brighton, particularly in that last 10 minutes of the first half and the first sort of 10, 15 minutes of the second half.
Yeah.
Where we were outstanding, I think, in a number of areas. There's a lot that's been said about Ramsdale and some blinding saves that he made. Yeah. I think watching the game, the trigger for me actually was that chance for Rico.
Yeah.
And watching that where Solanke bursts down that right-hand side, pulls the ball back across the box, and it comes to Rico, and you're just willing him to score. But actually, the fact that he had a shot and nearly scored seemed to galvanise everybody. And from then on, we had 3 or 4 chances in a row, and it was absolutely no surprise when we went in 1-0 and then 2-0. Just fantastic bit of momentum. Confidence came flooding back. Yeah,
that's right. And just briefly, any positive shoots from the game?
So positive shoots from the Arsenal game. I think Surridge deserves that super sub role. I think that's clear. Don't play Solanke on his own up front if that's a positive shoot. I think it possibly is.
You sort of thinking the positive shoots are maybe things that Eddie has decided that he now knows do not work. Perhaps like Jack Simpson left back, Solanke on his own.
And don't play Jack Simpson left back. And I'm sorry, but that should have been Lloyd Kelly there. He must be injured because he should have been in that team tonight. He needs game time so that we can see how good he is if Rico gets suspended or injured, which might easily happen. So. Yeah, I think those were the positives. I think, okay, we lost 2-1. It was respectable without actually looking in any way, shape or form that we were ever going to win that game.
Yeah, and it's interesting to say. The reason why I started the 5-word match report on Twitter was so I could get a brief glimpse of what fans were thinking without having to necessarily read paragraphs and paragraphs. And these are some of the ones that have just been coming through. Craig said, showed Arsenal too much respect. No distractions from the league now, said Christopher. Disappointed, but league is priority, said Stephen. Tommy Heffernan's Poodle, Guy, that is hard to watch yet again. AFCB Rob says 4-5-1 on Saturday. Dave, too little, far too late. Priority given to our relegation, said Tim. Saka 18 annihilates Cherries defence, said Will Partridge. Don't play the old fuckers, said Refrigeration Red. James, focus on league. Ian, say we are staying up. Pompey isn't an away day anyway, said James again. Solanke, not a football player, said Gary. A little bit harsh. Start Surridge against Villa, said James. Jake, Eddie throws another cup match. Fucking try a bit harder, said Stephen Russell. Time to focus on survival, said Ross. You can see a theme that people are focusing on the league, and maybe that was in Eddie's thoughts. And as Neil Dawson said, it was like Brighton never happened.
Yeah, it did feel chalk and cheese. Even in that first 30 minutes against Brighton, where they had a lot of the ball, we pressed much better. We had much more intensity and energy in our play. The players wanted it. And tonight was like slipping back into old habits of let them have the ball and we're not too bothered about getting it back, which is just completely opposite to how they played in that first half against Brighton.
Yeah. Completely agree. Well, unfortunately, not a good night for AFC Bournemouth last night. But as we've learned, Saturday is a massive game for us. Jeff, thank you once again for coming on the podcast.
No problem, Sam.
And we'll see you in the next video.
Look forward to it.